Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often here. Wipe my tears, only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Certain things don't like to talk about, but I'll always remember. The chaos in my mind turned my heart out in November. I'm surrounded by too many doors, not sure which way I entered. But I'm rocking with my loved ones, let you know that front and center.
Welcome to the Message Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today in the studio we have a gentleman. He's got 4 years and some change clean, and he's got a powerful story. So, Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
Thank you for coming on, bro.
I'm doing good today. A little
Good.
nervous, but I'll be all right.
You'll get comfortable real quick. But
Yeah.
so we generally started out the same every time. We start with how'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? Was there addiction in the household? Things like that.
So I grew up in a small town called Indio, California. And yeah, there was addiction inside of the household. I was so young I didn't notice it or know what addiction was then. But, I started using it at a young age. So it was like the first time I smoked some weed and stuff. My brother had left his stash underneath his bed. And I came across it, and I had seen him do it, so I did it. And then the neighbor asked me to watch his 40-ounce King Cobra, and he went inside, and I pounded that 40-ounce.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to marijuana and alcohol.
How old were you?
I was 5.
5 years old?
Yeah.
Damn.
And at 9, I did my first line of meth.
Wow. How did that happen?
So during my mom and dad's separation, she met a gentleman inside of the bar, and I was instantly angry. And she would take me out here to San Bernardino and drop me off at my uncle's house. And I was riding my bike around one day, and I met this dude at a recycling center. And he asked me if I had ever did a line of meth, and I told him, yeah, I've done it. He's like, well, come by tomorrow, and I got you. I was a big kid, And I went by there the next day, and he had it out, and he's like, well, are you going to do it? And I'm like, well, what do I do? You know what I mean? And he handed me a rolled up dollar, and I did my first line of meth at 9 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
So
It's probably a big one, too.
yeah, it was.
I think at 9 years old, anything's going to be a big
Well, I
one.
know, but he was expecting you to be able to keep up, probably.
I didn't know what to expect or what, you know what I mean? I felt good from it. Don't get me wrong. Like it was a different, intense feeling.
Right.
But at 9 years old, what do you think to something like that?
Right.
It wasn't until later on down the line, my brother was actually one of the connects in Indio, and I started messing around with him. At 14, I was addicted on the streets with a kid on the way.
Damn.
So yeah.
What do you think some of the factors are of you like feeling like you had to grow up so fast and kind of like fall into that lifestyle so easily?
So I was a hurt kid, man, at 4. Well, when my mom and dad separated, my mom would drop me off places. And, I ended up getting molested by a family member. I didn't know right from wrong.
Right.
So that was something I held in. After my dad left, I felt like he left because of me.
Right.
And then there was the abusiveness inside of the household with this man my mom brought home, who I used to watch beat her and beat me. So I ran the streets as a kid. I had a lot of anger built up. At 5, 6 years old, trying to protect my mom from getting her ass whipped by this man, I wasn't much protection, but I gave it my all, So I think it was just a lot of hurt. And then when I did that meth, man, it was just like when I started doing it, I found something I could mask the hurt.
Right.
Yeah. So you started using daily, like on a regular basis at 14?
So I started smoking it, and somewhere down that line, it was just like my body started craving it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what addiction was.
Right.
Like I knew my sisters. I have twin sisters that were out on the streets doing their thing. My brother was out there doing a thing. He left the house at an early age. My dad broke his jaw. And then, like, I know that he was selling drugs, and with me with a kid on the way, he used to give me shit so that way I could take care of the baby.
Yeah.
You know, so I did whatever I had to do. But, like, I had gotten so bad, and it's like I'll say it again, I didn't know what addiction was. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun to stay up for weeks at a time and just running the street, breaking into stuff, you know, robbing people. It was just a way of life because that's how my family was.
Yeah. You didn't know any different.
No.
Damn.
You know, I would see people on the street corners all blasted up and tattooed and
Right.
partying all the time. And it was just like, it was already stuck in my head. That's what I want to be like.
Yeah.
You know, little did I know at that time, it's like all my dreams that I had of like playing baseball and everything like that, they were already down the toilet.
Yeah.
Like my head was on a different route.
Yeah. Immediately, almost.
No, I was having fun. It's like, if the drugs don't get you, the lifestyle will.
Yeah. 100%.
And I was addicted to both.
Yeah. Did you continue to go to school, or was school out the
So
picture too?
I failed my 9th grade year. I went back my 10th grade year as a freshman. And a couple weeks into school, I got expelled for a fight. And they tried sending me to C school, and I'm like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
And by that time, it was just like, she was pregnant. I was moving to Vegas, and that's when my kid was born, you know? So,
You're moving with her?
yeah, I moved out of state with her. And, you know, when she came back, we came back, and that's when everything just went downhill. That's when I started selling the drugs for my brother and running the streets. And
So how long did it take after that for you to start getting in trouble over it,
so
like with the law?
at 18, I picked up some charges for attempted arson, terrorist threats, resisting arrest, battery on a police officer, and I did my first county lit at 18.
Damn.
And I was scared. Like, they had me on a Jell-O diet in there. I couldn't eat anything. It was coming up. So, but little did I know, at the end of that stay, I became institutionalized.
Were you on a Jell-O diet because the cops fucked you up, or?
No, I was scared. I was 18 years old, first
Oh,
time
okay.
in county jail. It was just like, I didn't want to be here. You know what I mean?
I've seen people on that diet because their jaw's broken.
No, I had some black eyes and bruised ribs.
Oh, okay.
You know, pepper spray don't taste too good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went in, and you know, I found comfort in there.
Yeah.
I guess because I wasn't hurting my family. You know, I would last a couple weeks, a month or two, and then I would pick up a new case and then go right back in. Eventually, probation got tired of me, and I picked up my my first prison sentence. I believe that was in 2005 or 1 or something like that. And they sent me upstate.
How old were you then?
I was 22 probably.
Okay.
21, 22.
Just ready to go at that point. Huh?
So I did a turnaround.
Yeah.
I went to Delano, sat there for a couple months, and then they shot me out to Solano. And then I stayed there for about 6 months, and then I got kicked back out. So, and it didn't last much longer before I picked up another case and went back in for 4 years.
Damn.
So from the time from 18 to 31, it was in and out, jails, institutions, you know.
Right.
So
Did you? So you had just the one child at that point, or? I know for me, like I was having kids left and right. What?
well, I got five. I got 5 kids.
Okay.
And so one I've never met. I believe at that time there was 2. But man, I wasn't no good for them.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't no good for anybody. I wanted to get high.
Right.
Like they were taken care of. You know.
Yeah.
My kids' mothers, they're all good. You know. I was better off away from them. You know, my oldest has a lot of resentment against me for that. You know, like tells me you chose drugs and alcohol over your own kids. And what do you say to that?
Nothing to
Except
say.
for you're right. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter how much time I get clean or whatnot. That's still lying on the back of that child's head. Like, you chose drugs and alcohol and going to prison and that lifestyle over me.
Yeah.
Still to this day, he sees me with my other kids and was like, man, I want that. How come I wasn't worth you getting clean?
Mm-hmm.
So that one's like a big one between me and my oldest, and it hurts, you know?
Yeah.
But I've had to tell him, like, look, 'cause he'll get foul with me sometimes, and I'm like, look, I'm not the person that I was then, and I am making a difference today, and you can't keep, like, ridiculing me for my past mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a work in progress.
Right.
Yeah.
I did that for a long time. I had that in my head, and I used it that my kids were fine and they were taken care of because they were. And I stayed out there a long time just telling myself that I didn't need to be there because they were taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why I got clean young, because there was nobody else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even when my kids got taken the last time, it was like they couldn't even stay with my mom.
Yeah.
My mom was an addict, and my mom knew that we were getting loaded.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't know she was getting loaded, but they knew that
But
she knew.
If they
that
would
we
have
were
looked
getting
into
loaded.
it, they would have found out.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So my mom couldn't even get him. My dad, yeah, it's a different story, you know. He wasn't really around much back then. But, yeah, so I think, like, for me, and now, you know, I'm hearing you talking, like, now I'm on the other side of that spectrum, right? Like my baby's mom's kids are good. You know what I'm saying? So she's out there, like, running the streets and, you know, back and forth to Mexico and, like, everything she got going on. You know what I'm saying? And like, and I get to raise my kids, right? And I think, like, I get to see both sides of the fence, right? Like, I know what it is to be the addict, the dad who fucking, you know, can't keep a pipe out of his mouth. You know what I'm saying? The running the streets, picking all that over them. As much as I denied it back then, like, that's the truth, right? Like, and so, like, but now I'm on the other side of that, and I get to see, like, the effects that addiction have, right? And have you ever heard that song, "How Could You Leave Us" by NF? You know what I'm talking about, right? And it's a song to his mom. His mom overdosed on pills, and it's a really good perspective on a kid and the way they look at things. You know what I'm saying? Because we are powerless, right? Like, when I'm getting loaded, bro, I don't have, like, a choice, right? There is no like logical thinking of doing anything, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just, how the fuck am I gonna get the next one? Who am I gonna have to hurt? What am I gonna have to steal? You know what I'm saying? What lie am I gonna have to tell today? Whatever the case may be. But our kids, they don't see that, right? They don't understand that, and hopefully our kids will never understand that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hopefully they'll never understand what it is to be an addict and how powerless we are when we're getting loaded, you know? But yeah, man, I'm on the other side of that. I'm on the other side of the fence with that one. And it sucks, man. I've had to, you know, walk my kids through a lot of stuff to where now, I mean, it's been 9 years and my kids really don't care about seeing their mom. And that's no shade to her, you know? As much as I want to be shady and as much as I want to, like, hate her and resentment towards her and how the fuck, you know what I'm saying? I get there sometimes, but, like, my sponsor, you know, is amazing, bro. And that fool taught me, like, you know, we love each other, right? And, like, we have to be understanding and caring. But the truth is, I mean, it absolutely bothers me, and it definitely bothers my kids for sure.
Yeah, I'm going through the same thing. So, like, I had 66 days clean, and my youngest, my 12-year-old's mom, had kept me from my son his whole life. At that time, he was 6, gonna be 7, and I had got a couple visits with him, and that was in 2019. By April of 2020, his stepdad sent me a picture, and it was of my son with a bruise on his face, right? And I guess she whacked him in the face with a USB cord. And man, I ain't gonna lie. I got home at midnight and I dialed the 1-800 number to CPS, and I reached out and I said, you know, I'm this boy's father, man. I have every which ways and means to take care of my son, and I want him. You know, so CPS showed up at my door the next morning at 8 o'clock. They did a walkthrough, talked to my 2 other kids. And before she left, I'm like, do you got a UA bottle on you? And she's like, are you willing to test? I have nothing to hide. And she's like, well, I got a mouth swab. And I took that. And we waited a few minutes. And when that test came back, that lady looked at me and she said, I consider you a protective parent, Mr. Bishop, and I suggest you go get your son. And if there's any issues, call the sheriff's department. That night I had my son, and that little boy's been with me ever since. And to see how addiction has affected his life through his mom, like he don't want nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
You know, I see it. It hurts him and stuff, you know, because like I've tried to help her out. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink, right? The only thing I could do is continue to pray for her. And it's been almost 5 years since she's been out there in the streets, but I understand it. Yeah. You know, I had no intentions on taking full custody of my son. Like I told her, it's like, I want a co-parent. I want you to get right, get into treatments, show me that you could stay clean. I'll support you. And she hasn't been able to do it, but I understand it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's so much similarities, bro, because that's how I got my kids 9 years ago, because she put hands on one of my daughters, right? And then, and as a father, like I already had 2 years clean, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I called CPS, I called the cops, everything that I swore I would never fucking do, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you call CPS or the cops on me, you're a fucking punk, bro. Like, get the fuck away from me. I'll bust, you know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff, right? But like cause my others, you know, part of my brain said, well, okay, she wants to hurt your daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like we know what to do, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to go that route, you know? And I'll end with this and we'll get back to your story. But I remember when she was seeing the kids consistently, right? And like, I remember thinking to myself, man, there is nothing worse than hearing my kids cry when they have to leave their mom. But the only thing worse than that is when they stop crying when they leave their mom. Mm-hmm. That's when I was like, bro, it's like normal to them. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, my kids are like in the same boat. Right, and she puts up this front like I'm keeping them. I've never kept my kids from her, right? Even when it was against my better judgment, right? Because like we know this disease is deadly, bro, right? And so like, if my baby's mom wants to see the kids, right, and then I say no, and then she, you know, goes out there and dies, then I'm gonna feel guilty because the last opportunity my kids got to see their mom, I you know what I'm saying, didn't do that, you know what I'm saying? And so like she plays like this victim card, like I keep them, like my kids. They're grown, bro. You know what I'm saying? I got a 20-year-old. She's about to be 21. I got a 14-year-old, 14-year-old, 13-year-old, and then my son's 10. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're just like they're done, bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're done with me too sometimes, but that's a whole nother story.
They don't have an option for that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. We make up afterwards, and you know what I'm saying, all that stuff. But like, but yeah, bro. Like once you start to realize, like, man, they don't even. It doesn't even bother them that they're leaving her. It like really messed me up. So yeah.
Yeah, he's right there, you know. Yeah. And like he says, I'm not leaving you, Dad. Yeah. Like there's stability in the home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like coming from a 12-year-old child, you know, telling somebody like me like there's stability in the home, like mind blown, you know.
Yeah. That's crazy, bro.
But that's my pride and joy right there, you know. Yeah, I got some pretty amazing kids. I have a special needs daughter. They're all good, man. I just have to stay clean, and because one bad decision will lead me right back out that door, and then what?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, for sure. And then so like, so you're an adult, right? You're in and out of prison, right? In and out of institutions, jails, right? Were you getting loaded when you were in jail, in prison?
I have, right? My brother scared the shit out of me, and it was probably the best advice he had ever given me when I went to prison. He's like, bro, if you can't afford it, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And don't run up no debts, and don't hang around people getting loaded. So I stuck by that, you know, and it probably saved my life.
100%.
Right? Because there's nowhere to run on a prison yard, bro.
I know.
You know, it's not like you're out here in the streets and you burn somebody for $20. They're like, no, they're going to get your ass in there.
Yeah.
No matter where you go.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, so for 13 years on a main line in GP, like I didn't have to worry about none of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm very thankful for my brother. That's my superhero, you know. And like he has some time clean too. You know, he just took 9 years.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's if I sum that all up, that's my superhero, man.
Oh, yeah.
So what was it like at like the end of the road when you decided to like make a change and try out recovery?
So August 5th of 2013, I was released. By November, I was strung out. I was getting pee from friends of mine,
Yeah.
going in there, putting in a Visine bottle. You know, my mom would take me to go to the probation office, and I would turn the heater on full blast and set that Visine bottle in front of the heater, get out, cheek it. And I was passing UA tests like this for a long time. And then, like, I got so good, like, the probation officer stopped testing me. And by that time, it was just, like, full-blown, like, sickness with it all over again, you know? And, man, I walked in, and I remember, like, the audio and visual hallucinations, right? And I walked in there, and I had scratches all over my face. I was seeing things that weren't really there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my mind was gone.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was coming back from it. I was using so much dope. And I remember he walked out and he looked at me and he just shook his head. And I was like, I don't want to go back, but I need help. Right? And they got me into a place, a really good home in Indio, man. It was small. There were 7 people inside of the home, right? So I show up and everything's inside of a black hefty bag.
All your stuff.
Right? Oh my, the good old hefty bag.
Yeah.
And
I still show it to conventions with hefty bags sometimes. They're so normal. I mean, I got me
Just
a
to
Nike.
stay humble.
I got me a Nike bag now, but an early recovery for I'll show up in a fucking some Stater Brother bags and a fucking black trash bag. Now we're good.
yeah, those things come in handy, man. And they're smelling like dirty sock, right? Like, so I show up, man, and I remember I was scared going inside of this home. And inside this home, man, they had this like a Hobby Lobby stick with a piece of white ripped sheet on it, and it was stuck on this old like 90s tube TV. And my counselor at the time said, many people come across it, but very few do it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Right? And I was like, what is this stick with a ripped white sheet on it? But it was like haunting me the first couple of days I was there. And man, that's when he told me it was a surrender flag.
White
He said,
flag.
he said, you never have to fight again unless you choose to. And when nobody was looking, man, I grabbed that white flag and I went around the side of this house. And I think that was the first time I've cried out to God and said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I need help. You know, and the clouds didn't open up and lightning strike, none of that fancy shit, right? But the next morning, it was like my willingness to live was there, right? And it's like I wanted to attend groups. That feeling of wanting to die, right, was removed. Like, and I started paying attention and I started learning stuff, you know? So after I completed this treatment, you know, I really started going to a lot of meetings. You know, my kid's mom was like, you got a year, focus on your recovery. I'm like, all right. And that's what I did, man. That first year was nothing but meetings, service work, step work, everything, you know. And I remember them telling me, because my brother was still strung out at that time, and I told him, I got to love you from a distance, bro. Right? He got me inside of a car with him, and I told him, you ain't got nothing on you, do you? He's like, nah, get in. We're inside my mom's car, you know? And we start driving around, and his phone rings, and he's like, how much do you need? I'll be right there. And he reached down and started ripping a bag, and I was so terrified. And I broke out in tears, and I started screaming, like, how could you do that to me? Like, I'm on fucking probation. Like, I don't want to go back. And I got out of the car, and I walked away from him. And I had to, like, I told him, you're not allowed at my home. You're not allowed around my kids. Like, this is a wrap. When you decide to get clean, call me and I'll help you. And I had like 15 months clean at that time, man. And I didn't think it was ever going to happen, man. And I got that phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I let the phone ring. Remember my kid's mom was like, who's that calling you? I was like, it's my brother. I felt it in my heart. She's like, well, ain't you going to answer? I'm like, no. If it's important, you'll call back.
Yeah.
And he called back, man. He's like, hey, how about a meeting? I was like, fuck a meeting. How about a program? And he said, I'm ready. I'm ready and willing to do whatever. I don't want to die. And I was like, I'll be right there. I called my mom. My mom shot down and picked him up from the casino, you know. And so the story is he set me up. Basically, I was getting loaded and I had to go check in with parole. And he's like, you're not going to get arrested. It's all right. I'm going in the parole office, geeked out of my mind. And I can't test. You know, my parole officer says, oh, you can't test, huh? No. She's like, come with me to the back. And like, that's when 5 sheriffs threw me up against the wall. Yeah. So I have to tell my brother, I'm like, dude, you have to go into the probation office. And he's like, no way. I'm not going. I was like, bro, it'd be the best thing for you. Go in there and go get a referral. By that time, my counselor had called me back. He's like, I got a bed for him. He needs to go get that referral. And he did, man. My mom took him over there, and he got that referral. And he got rid of the dope that was in his pocket. And I kept my mom and all of us away for the 90 days that he was in there so he could focus on his recovery. And he's been clean ever since, man. And that was March 26th. But, yeah, so we've been walking through this together, you know. So I stayed clean. He started his thing after he completed treatment. That's when I got offered a job to work for that facility I went through to get clean at. And I worked there for about 3.5 years. And, like, I heard it told to me, is like, your recovery is not your job.
Yeah.
Or your job is not your recovery, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't pay attention to that.
Yep.
I really, like, work came first. I had to go make that money. It was just like, I have a new car. I'm learning to pay bills. Child support's taking out. And so everything in my life revolved around work. I forgot to, let me rephrase that. I chose not to call my sponsor. I chose to stop working my steps. I chose to stop going to meetings. And my buddy calls me. He says, "The fuck are you doing?" I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're already relapsed and you don't even see it. I'm like,
damn,
bro, I got this.
Yeah.
You know, famous as I got this.
Yeah.
And a week later, I ended up fucking loaded. I went to work and that demon was talking in my ears like, dude, you could have a beer. You've been clean 4 years, 7 months, this and this, right? Nobody will know.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay, you know? And when I got off work that night, I picked up a 3-pack of Modelo Cheladas. And, man, all day my mouth was salivating. You know, if I would have known better, it was just like the disease was alive and well.
Yeah.
You know, and I drove that 3-pack all the way from Indio to Desert Hot Springs. And the addict behavior in this, right? As I sit there and think about it, it was like, okay, I live in this apartment complex. Let me park in the complex over so that way my baby mama pulls up and don't see me parked in the stall just getting smashed. And I remember that feeling when the first time I popped that can, man. And I put that tall boy to my lips. It was like, and it was like I took a sip and that demon was wide awake. And I was like, man, that was the best thing ever. So by the second tall can, I'm calling people and laughing at them. They're like, Sam, are you drunk? And I'm like, no, I don't drink. And here comes the lies, right? And in my head, I'm still like, I'm going to pound these. I'm going to go back to work tomorrow. Everything's going to be like all cool.
Yeah.
By the third one, I kill it, and somehow I end up in Palm Springs, dude, and I end up at my cousin's hotel room, and I remember walking in, and there's 10 pounds of dope sitting on the counter and a bunch of guns, and I'm like, what's up, dude? Let me get some. And he had already thrown away 5 years, and he was on a sick one. So I don't think he even really thought about it until after he handed me the bag, and he's like, cuz I'll buy that back from you triple of what you just gave me. I'm like, if I choose to use it, I'll use it. If not, I'll throw it away. In the back of my head, I was like, I ain't throwing this fucking shit away. It's a fat ass rock. And, man, I drove home with my foot to the floorboard. And I already knew what I was going to do, man. Baby mama had a box full of brand new diabetic needles up inside the closet. I ran inside somehow. I don't remember going inside and getting them, but I got them. And I came back outside, and I got loaded in the car, dude. Right? Here comes the sickness. It's like I got high, the car's running, porn playing on my phone, and it was just I'm sitting there drenched in sweat. And next you know, I'm looking around and the sun's coming up, and I'm like, fuck. What did I do? Mm-hmm. At the end of that little run, man, that last day, I had to call my brother and tell him, you know, bro, I fucked up. I was supposed to be flying out to the World Convention in Orlando, Florida with him. Mm-hmm. He had already paid for my ticket. And he had to turn around, had to call his boss and tell him, I need to go pick up my baby brother. He's loaded, and I'm going to put him on the road with me. So the day that he was supposed to be back, like I remember throwing bag after bag away, right, and flushing it, and going back out and getting some more. Fuck. I got in the car, and that feeling of not wanting to live anymore, right, and wanting to die came back into play, and I blew a stop sign purposely doing 100 miles an hour, and the car went airborne. I locked up the brakes. It was either run into somebody's house or hit a parked car. Well, the vehicle that I hit was a Dodge Ram, and it pushed the hood of my car all the way back up. My head went through the windshield, and I didn't die, but my first thought was, okay, I'm not dead, but I get to go to jail now, and I could get some sleep. And this lady I didn't even know came running up on the side of the car, and she's like, oh, my God, do you need some help? And I stuck a cigarette in my mouth, and I lit it, and I told her to get the fuck away from me. And I got out, and I was noodle grooving, and I was waiting on the cops. And the cops show up and ask me, like, you got license, insurance, and registration? You know, the good part about it, before I went out, I paid my bills, right? Like, because that's what a responsible, productive member of society does. We pay our shit. So I showed them that, and they were like, do you need a tow truck? And I'm out there just pop locking and dropping, right? And they're like, I live right down the street. I'll drive the car there. I'm like, no problem. Have a good day, sir. And I was so angry at that cop for not taking me in, man. I had to wait for my brother to come back, and he turned around from New York, and he came back and got me. You know, he sent his boss over there to go pick me up, and that pissed me off. I'm like, where's my brother? I'm not going with you.
Yeah.
She's like, you're coming with me. I was like, well, I'm going to go get high first real quick. And she's like, I can't have you in my work vehicle like that. And I remember looking at the pipe in the bag, and I looked back at her, and she told me I was so scared of you, Sam, because I didn't know whether if you were going to hurt me. And I looked back at that bag, and I handed it to her. I said, here's the dope, but I'm beating my brother's ass when we get over there. You know, so she takes me over there, and he comes out. He's like, what the fuck's your problem? He's like, look, you have a choice to get inside this vehicle right now. You could live a little longer, because if not, you're going to end up dying, going back to prison, or God knows what. He's like, but I got to go to work. You need to make a choice. And when I heard that, you need to make a choice, it wasn't like Big Brother telling me what I'm going to do. It was like, make this choice because I have to go. And I was like, fuck, and that broke me. You know, and I got in the truck with them. It was like a 26-foot Mercedes Sprinter with the inside gutted and loaded with artwork. And so for a year, I stayed on the road with my brother delivering fine artwork across the nation.
Damn.
So I relapsed. I got thrown out of the house, totaled my car, tried committing suicide, to being put on a vehicle for a whole year on vacation, sightseeing the U.S.
With your brother?
With my brother.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was just like an addict helping an addict.
Yeah.
Right? Is without parallel. Mm-hmm. He didn't look at me as his little brother. He looked at me as an addict seeking help. You know, and that man saved my life that day. You know, and not only that, I got to spend time with a man who I admire and look up to. Yeah. You know, we got to know each other. And that's all I ever wanted my whole life.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for him. So that's why I talk a lot about my brothers. My brother's like my everything, you know. But yeah, that still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
You know, I got 15 months clean and came back, got a new vehicle, and somebody in a meeting, man, my mom and sister were strung out on pain pills, and I was having real bad back problems, and I was going through pain management. I was scared of those pain pills, and somebody in a meeting told me, "Why don't you try CBD?" There's no TH. Wrong thing to tell an addict.
Yeah, bro.
Right? And this person had like 16 years clean. So I went and bought me a bottle of CBD. And I was like, okay, this works a little bit. I'll be good with that. Man, 2 weeks later, I was like, this shit ain't cutting it. I need something stronger, you know? So I went through the whole like marijuana maintenance program.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, there was another bag of meth involved, right? So during like the edibles, the vape cartridges, the syrups, the texture, all this shit, right? When it hit flour, because all that shit was expensive, right? Then came the alcohol again. You know, I was working at 7-Eleven in the middle of the ghetto.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody at that store smoked weed. So it was like, and they all drank. So at the end of my shift, I would stop and pick me up a Modelo Salt and Lime, go home, smoke some weed, drink my beer. And I was like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Let's see how long this lasts. I get out of work one night and something glistens in the nightlight. I'm like, right? Because tweakers stare at floors, bro. No. And that's what I did. And lo and behold, next to my truck tire, brother, there's this big ass bag of meth. And I didn't know what it was, but I grabbed it and jumped up in there and I opened it up. And I'm like, fuck, the dope gods love me. It's time to get high and party, you know? And I opened it up and I remember I tasted it. And right back to that closet where those diabetic syringes were. And I got high, man. Kid's mom was like, she would kiss me and she looked at me and she just like, that shame and guilt was eating me alive. And I remember I was laying in bed one night and I was hurt. I was disappointed in myself. I was angry. I was ashamed. One more time, here I am again with needles going inside my arm, smoking this shit, smoking weed, drinking beer. And it's just like the same old thing all over again. And I had my headphones on, man, and I was laying stiff as a board, and she was next to me, and I'm like, I can't make a move, right? She'll know.
Yeah.
And trying not to breathe and shit. And Phil Collins, In the Air of the Night was playing, man. And I can feel it coming in the air tonight, right? And I'm crying, and I'm in tears, and I get up real slow, and I remember walking to the front door, and that song's playing, and I could feel it, and I just threw it, coming in the air tonight, and the pipe broke in the middle of the street, and I was so angry, and that's the night I told him myself, like, look, I've been fucking getting loaded. I've been going to work like this. I told my boss, my sponsor had been showing up at work. He's like, dude, just come back home already. And I'm like, I'll be back. It was like, fuck. I hated working at the convenience store in the neighborhood because everybody from program would show up and it's like, here these motherfuckers come again.
Buying their energy drinks.
Buying their energy drinks, or their cigarettes. Yeah. And every time I seen them, I just turned my head. I didn't want to look at them in their eyes. I was like, man, here they go. They're going to fuck my high up. And, but that man never gave up on me. He's like, I don't care if you're loaded or not. You read that book. And after I told on myself, dude, my brother showed up and I remember I rolled a joint and I had some dope in my pocket and I was sipping on a beer. And when they talk about when the drugs stop working, drugs and alcohol stop working, man, I think it was at that point because part of me was really missing those rooms.
Yeah.
There was a love in those rooms that I had never felt until I got there. And I was missing it so much, man. Anyhow, I roll it up and I take a hit and it tastes like shit. I pop the can open, take a sip, it tastes like shit. I look at my brother. I told him, I'm fucking done. It's time to pull my head out of my ass. And I dumped the beer out. I threw the bag of dope away. I threw the joint out in the middle of the street, got rid of the jar of weed that I had, and I picked up the phone and I called my sponsor and told him I'm done. I'm ready to get clean. That was February 8th. So my first full day clean was February 9th, and that's my clean date, February 9th of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't picked up since.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah. So did you continue working at that store, or did
For a little bit.
a little bit?
Yeah. I told my boss what had happened and everything. She gave me a few days off, and I told her, you know what? If you choose to fire me, I completely understand. I did it to myself, right? It's like getting honest, that first step. And I had to get honest, you know? Like when I'm on that stuff, I cannot manage my own life at all. And she let me work there, man. And I ended up working there for almost a year. And one of my friends was working in a recovery place, and I get a call. I'm inside of my house exercising, me and my son, and my phone rings, and they're like, yeah, is this Sam? And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? Who is this? They told me their name and stuff like that. Would you like to come in for an interview? I'm like, sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I started working in treatment. I think I had like 60 days, you know, but I had all this knowledge from working in treatment before, right? And they didn't care, you know. And I shared what knowledge I had. I shared my experience with the clients and stuff. But yeah, I started working in treatment, and I haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
You know, I might not be with that facility. I've gone to a couple of them. You know, God continues to put me wherever He sees fit, and I truly believe that. And yeah, the place, I am back at that recovery home I went through to get clean at, you know.
Working there
again,
Oh,
graveyards. So I do two 12-hour shifts there a week. And I'm at another place. I get to work with veterans.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's badass.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
So you had the same sponsor that whole time, too?
So my sponsor at that time, he went out on his 9 years clean, and he didn't make it back. I got a phone call while I was at work, probably about 20 months ago, or maybe 2 years. My boss came in and he says, I need you to clock out and go home. My first thought was like, fuck, what did I do? Am I fired? He's like, don't ask him questions, just go home. And I went home, man, and I seen somebody in the program's car there. And the only time you see their car out in the middle of the night is when somebody's dead.
Yeah.
And I knew that. My sponsor went out on his 9 years clean, man, and didn't make it back. And that man was my world. He didn't give up on me. You know, even through the course of him getting loaded, I never gave up on him. You know, it was like, let me pick you up. Why don't you come over to the house? Like, you know, I tried doing for him what he did for me. Mm-hmm. And he was just so far gone, you know. To my understanding of the situation that happened was he was beat to death and left out in the middle of the desert. Mm-hmm. You know, they found his dentures like 100 feet away from his body.
Damn.
So I was sponsorless for a while. And it was just like, part of me was telling me nobody's ever going to take that man's place.
Yeah.
You know? And it was like, okay, am I going to let this take me out?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, like, are you going to get the same thing he got?
Yeah.
You know? So instead of looking for every excuse to go get loaded, I look for every reason to stay clean. And I walked to the death of my sponsor.
Yeah.
I found another sponsor, and, you know, he has 18 years clean. He's kind of going through some legal stuff. And so now I'm sponsorless again. And it's just, you know, I've made it to step 10 before my sponsor passed away and went out. And that seems where I've been stuck. And then I started working a couple steps with this new sponsor, and then life took place in his life, you know? So I tried picking up somebody in another fellowship, and it was just like, okay, it's just not my get down for this one yet.
Yeah.
You know, he only works out of one book that I'm not familiar with. So I'm on the hunt. I'm looking for one because I know that I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
for sure.
You know. So yeah, I walked through that, through the death of my sponsor. Mom got sick really bad. She had stage 4 throat cancer. They gave her 30 to 90 days to live. She beat the throat cancer. They removed her voice box. Shortly after that, she progressed from stage 3 to stage 5 kidney failure. They put her on dialysis, and 8 weeks after dialysis, she passed away. So I lost my mom this year on May 6th. I went through a really bad breakup 2 weeks before my mom passed away. And then 5 months before that, the girl that I was seeing at that time, her daughter passed away, which was 18. She was 18 months, and I was a part of that baby's life since she was 6 weeks old, right? And she was at the babysitter's, man, and the babysitter wasn't paying attention. The baby got out on the back patio, fell in the pool, and drowned.
Damn.
So I had to walk through the death of this little girl, right? The girl that I was seeing, like, and I get it, and I understand. You know what I mean? From my point of view, I understand what I felt like. I can never understand how her as a mother felt.
Yeah.
Right? So when the baby passed away, it was like I lost this person that I had fell in love with. She wasn't the same person anymore. You know? So she left me out of nowhere. We were fine, and just bam, I don't want this anymore. And I was distraught. And I'll be honest with you, I wanted to go get fucked up. You know? But I didn't. Instead, I looked for every reason to stay clean, not for every excuse to go get loaded. And then I remember laying in bed, man, and I get the phone call that my mom had passed away. And it was just like a shot to the gut. You know? Yeah, so I walked through that. And, you know, my parents' biggest wish was to see me and my brother clean. Me and my brother were able to give our mother that before she took her last breath. You know, we fulfilled that promise. And I can tell you, losing my mother hurt, right? But nothing hurt like I did when I was lost in those streets every time I was stabbing myself in the arm trying to get a fucking vein, right? And I started thinking, like, fuck, my mom's walked into the bathroom a couple times and caught me with a rig in my arm. And I can imagine how she felt. You know, a lot of my anger stems, like, resentment towards my mother for bringing me into, like, leaving me, abandoning me. She took off when I was 6. I remember going to bed next to her and waking up and she was gone, right? And then she, like, left me for this man, this abusive alcoholic. She wasn't with my dad anymore. So, like, my whole life, a lot of my anger I was talking about in the beginning of my story, right? It was just like, I've robbed people in front of my mom, and I've looked at her and told her, you know what? This is because of you. All this kid wanted was to hear his own mother say, I'm sorry for doing the things that I did. But now that I look at it, it's just like, what mother can actually tell their child that they're sorry for doing those things? Yeah. Like, I had to look at it from her side. She probably felt bad as fuck, man. You know? But little does she know, like, I forgave her. Yeah. And then when she finally did tell me, she told me a couple years ago, she's like, I'm sorry for doing those things. Yeah. I told her, you don't need to apologize, Mom. I've already forgiven you. Yeah. And so that's where a lot of my anger came from, you know. But yeah, we had a beautiful service for her. My brother, like, you know, he came through. We had shirts made, my brother and my nephew, and all of us kind of just walked through it. And it crushed my brother, you know. Because there was days that he was sitting with my mom while she was, like, gagging, like gurgling. You know, you'd hear those gurgling sounds from when they were removing her throat, her voice box and stuff, and it would send me in a full-blown panic attack. And I remember sobbing and crying, like, I just didn't want to see my mom like that, you know. But that morning she passed, and I made it over there, man. I walked into the apartment, I see my mom dead on the floor, and she was covered up with blankets. And I laid down next to my mother, man, and I put my arm around her and I rubbed her head, and I was looking at her and I just said, I love you with all my heart, and I'm going to make you proud. And one thing with me is I always try to crack a little jokey joke, right? We're getting her up, like, you know, because she had been laying there for a minute, and it's like your bodily fluids and stuff, like, they're not able to be held in anymore. And the people come in, and I told him, we're going to lift my mom up, and you're not going to touch her, you know. And he took off her jewelry and stuff, and, you know, he gave me her ring. So I wear my mom's ring around my neck. But that smell hit me in the face of death. And I was like, damn, Mom, you stink. And everybody in the house starts busting up, right? And my sense of humor, like, I never knew I had one. And when I got clean, God, like, said, dude, you're going to be filled with jokes. And I'm very thankful that God gave me a sense of humor today. And because he got me through the death of my mom. Like, yeah, no matter how much it hurt, like, I still cracked a little jokey joke. You know, and I remember kissing my mom and stuff and just telling her, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. You know, and I haven't found a reason to pick up and drink or use yet.
And, you know, for me, because I lost my mom at the beginning of the year, right? My clean date's actually May 6th. And I lost my mom January 3rd. And it's a big loss, you know. But my anger stemmed from her too. You know what I'm saying? My dad, right? I blamed both of them for the way my life turned out, right? And like, I worked the steps, bro, because, like, I didn't want to get loaded no more, right? And in turn, like, I built and rebuilt a lot of relationships because of it, you know. And, like, at the end of my mom's life, me and her had a dope ass relationship. And then when I got clean, I was so resentful. I asked her about this too. She said she didn't, but because I was so resentful at the beginning because I thought she was the one they called CPS on me, and she had every right to. She says it wasn't her, but I couldn't even hug my mom properly, you know. And at the end of her life, I would go see her every Friday. She was in a home. She wasn't. I mean, obviously she's in a home. She's not doing the best, but it's not like there was like a lot of things going on with her. But like, after she passed, I had like a newfound admirations for the steps, bro. Because if it wasn't like for the healing I did in step 4 and 5, right, the amends I made in step 8 and 9, like me and my mother, we wouldn't have had the relationship that we had, bro. You know what I mean? And for me, in my head, like, because there was brief moments of like, I remember calling my sponsor and being angry and telling them, like, why can't I just be fucking normal? Like, why can't I just, like, go have a fucking beer and, like, forget about this for a fucking minute without, like, destroying my whole fucking life, right? But that doesn't work. Not for me, not for you, not for Mike, right? Like, that shit doesn't work, bro. If you put a fucking beer in me, bro, like that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, I become somebody that is unrecognizable, bro. I'm putting fucking needles in my arm, pipes in my mouth. Like, it's just, it gets bad really fast, bro. You know what I'm saying? Every fucking time, you know? And so, like, I remember telling my sponsor, like, why can't I just fucking, like, be a normal motherfucker today and just go get drunk and be okay like the rest of my fucking family, right? And just, like, go back to normal tomorrow, right? And one thing I had to come to terms with is that, like, feeling her death is an honor, right? Feeling her death is an honor for me, bro. Like, I don't have to run from it. I don't have to hide from it. Like, I don't have to pretend like it's not there, right? I don't get to drown myself today. Like, I got to feel like every bit of her death. You know, the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, the depression, the loneliness, the cries out to God. Like, Yeah, and I think that as much as it hurts, she deserves for me to hurt. She deserves for her to leave, and to know that there are people that loved her enough that like I mourned over her. You know what I'm saying? I never mourned death before. You know, one of the last times I got loaded, like the last month I got loaded, my cousin Michael was a big part of my addiction. When I lost him, he was like a brother to me, and that's when I spiraled out of control. I was already on my way to becoming the addict that I became, but when I lost him, it like forced me to become the addict that I became faster, you know. And the last month that I was getting loaded, I remember going to his gravesite right there off of Waterman in San Bernardino, and like, you know what I'm saying, like in broad daylight, bro. Right? In broad daylight, bro, with a fucking pipe in my mouth, smoking dope at his fucking gravesite, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like what a dishonorable way to fucking to mourn him. What a coward way to mourn him. Right? What like that's chicken shit, bro. Right? I wasn't like strong enough, right, to face that on my own. And that doesn't mean that I faced my mom's death on my own. Right? Like Mike, Juan, you know what I'm saying, Jill, you know what I'm saying, my sponsor, but really like Mike, Juan, and Jill are fucking, I mean, bro, they were there for me every step of the fucking way. And there was multiple other people, right? So I didn't have to do this alone, but I didn't have to do this fucking loaded, bro, right? And for me, that's a gift, bro, that I get to feel today, right? What they say when I first got clean, like, there's some good news, there's some bad news. The good news is you get your feelings back, and the bad news is you get your feelings back, right? But it's like, what I understand today, bro, is I can't drown out one feeling without drowning out the rest.
Oh.
Right? Like, I can't drown out, like, pain. I can't drown out depression. I can't drown out anxiety. I can't drown out resentment without drowning out freedom, without drowning out joy, without drowning out laughter, without drowning out peace, without drowning out, you know what I'm saying, like a presence of God, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I drown out any of those one emotion, if I want to drown out one emotion, like hurt from losing my mother, I'm drowning out God and everything else that comes along with that, bro. So like, yeah, man, there's just so many similarities to your story, bro, and all that. And like, being in recovery is a gift. Doesn't always feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes this shit fucking sucks, bro. Having to fucking live life on life's terms and figure out the bills and figure out fucked up emotions. You get in relationships and like fucking, I don't know what to do, dog, because I never really fucking dealt with relationships without running or without cheating or without, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just different for me, right? But I wouldn't have it any other way, bro. Right? And I know some people are like, oh, I don't understand why people say grateful because it's not because I'm grateful for everything going on in my life. It's I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to deal with life on life's term, bro, without picking up and getting loaded, bro. That's a gift because there's friends, family, loved ones who are fucking dead. Friends, family, loved ones who are in prison. Friends, family, loved ones who are on the fucking street right now, bro, at a gas station asking for change. Right? In a dope spot, wishing that they could go to a fucking meeting, wishing that they could find what we have found, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I don't take this shit lightly. I know Mike doesn't take this lightly at all. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I know you don't, bro. You know, this is, like, for anybody listening, man, we're not fucking specialists. We're just a bunch of fucking addicts, bro, that fucking found a new way to live, right? And like, our goal was to, like, carry that message as far as we could carry it because we know how important the message is.
Yeah.
Totally agree. That message is everything, you know. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't pass up on any way that I could be a part of. Yeah. You know, whether if it's sharing inside of a meeting, doing H&I, I mean, anything to get a message out. Yeah. You know, I am very thankful and grateful for recovery, you know. Like, I have an amazing relationship with my parents, you know. Before my mom passed, we had a good relationship. I got to enjoy some good stuff, you know. Me and my dad, you know, he was a little heartbroken about my mom passing away. You know, they haven't been together since I was a kid. But, you know, he lost her. And he would tell me, you know, I miss your mom. So at 93 days after her passing, he had a heart attack. And this was last month. You know, about a month and a half ago, I guess. He had a heart attack, and his neighbor took him to the hospital, and we pop up. Anyhow, they were telling us he needed a triple bypass. So they ended up only doing 2. They cut the artery out of his leg, put it in his heart. And, man, I was leaving work, and my brother told me, he's like, Dad's not responding to being woken up, you know? And my first thought was like, I'm going to lose my dad. I just lost my mom. I'm going to lose my dad, you know? And I remember crying, and I prayed to God, man. I was like, God, just please open his eyes, you know, wake him up from this anesthesia. Just, you know, they had him hooked up. Like, no later than 5 minutes after I got done praying and bawling my eyes out, like I was talking to God tough inside that car headed to the hospital, my brother called, and he told me, he says, Dad responded to being woken up from that. I'm like, man, like God came in clutch. You know what I mean? Like, and all I could do was say thank you. And there was a time I used to blame God for everything, bro. Like, you know, I was calling him every name in the book. Today, I'm thankful to have a God of my understanding, man, that I can rely on, you know, even if I'm by myself, right? That's something I never had, because I used, God, why me? Why me? Why is my life so fucked up? Why don't I have this? Why has everybody got more than me? And why am I strung out on the streets? Because it was a fucking choice. I knew, you know, because I had some time clean, right? I'm the one that put myself in that position to go back out, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. No, it's insanity is doing the same thing, knowing the results. Right. I knew doing what was going to happen, and I chose to do it anyway. I was not allowing God to work in my life. You know, today I rely on that higher power, man. I have to tap in once in a while and be like, all right, what are we going to do today? When my feet hit the floor, I have to surrender. You know, every day isn't going to go the way I want it to go. Well, you know, but it's never too late to turn my day around.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
All right, Sam, thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nah, not much. I appreciate you guys allowing me to come out here and share a message with you guys, man.
All right. Well, if there was a piece of advice you could give to somebody who's been through some of the things you've been through, or maybe loaded right now, what would it be, Bo?
If you're struggling, reach out. You know, there's helplines that you're able to call, you know, reach out, get into a program, find somebody inside of a meeting. Don't be afraid to share your story, because you know what? In the midst of saving your life, you might be saving somebody else's. And if we don't share our message, how are we going to help other people, right? And this is what was so freely given to us, and we keep it by giving it away, right? So, man, reach out, open up, tell somebody what's going on with you. You know, I struggle with a lot of mental health issues too, and I've had to open up and talk about them.
Oh, yeah. All right. There's one thing I do want to mention. We have an email if you want to reach out there. I can't give you any hotline numbers over the podcast, but if you reach out to the messageshopepodcast@gmail.com, we will get it, and we will respond with some resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And be sure to like, subscribe to, you know, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Share this podcast with anybody who you think needs to hear Sam's story. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
I just hope my time's right. Lost up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
You know, it's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you, and take you out forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.